get started. Just a second. We'll let everybody get set. How's everyone tonight?
Right.
All right. As always, you brave the cold you got here, right? Only because your heart is warm for the Lord, right? That's the way we look for it. His love is your love for Him, that is, has motivated you to come. And so we're glad that that's the case. We're going to start a new topic tonight. We finished the second coming last occasion, so we're going to talk about never quit praying. And of course, we're back to Luke chapter number 17, which was put us into the topic of the coming of the kingdom and the second coming anyway. And so we took that lengthy detour of about 9 months. Now we're back to Luke 17. That's about the lengthiest detour I've ever heard of when it comes to the scriptures. But of course, you know how we have to do it, right? We have to actually go through every scripture that we can on a topic before coming to conclusion. So sometimes topics just take that much to do. So thank you for coming out. As always, your questions, your comments, your suggestions are absolutely necessary and invited as we go through the scriptures. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. What I want to do is somebody, either one person or split it up, but let's go through the whole scenario. So we're starting a study of Luke chapter 18, verse 1 to verse number 8. And this is a parable, so we know that's an earthly story with a heavenly meaning, right? So God, through the Son of God, being Jesus, is teaching us a spiritual story, right? Something that we can apply to our everyday, even though it's a fictional story, okay? So you got a lot of symbolism in here that applies to us today. All right, so let's go ahead. Anybody, let's start reading Luke 18, verse 1 to verse number 8. Somebody read that for me, please.
And he spake a parable unto them this end, that men ought always to pray, and not to faint, saying, there was a city a judge, there was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man.
Right.
And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while, but afterward he said within himself, though I fear not God, nor regard man, yet because this widow troubles me, I will avenge her, lest by her continuous coming she wearies me. And the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge said, and shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear along with them? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth?
Okay. Now, if you ever notice, when Jesus talks about parables, he introduces why he's talking about them, right? And so again, if you look at the beginning verse, what did he say? Look at Luke 18, verse 1. And he spake a parable unto them to this end, for this purpose, in other words, that men what? Are always to pray and what? Not to faint. So obviously then, even before you get into the parable, the fictional story, Jesus told you what he meant. Okay? So if you interpret it outside of that, you have gone astray, haven't you? Right? And so always know that about the parables, that he often introduces the topic and then explains it through a parable. Okay? That makes sense to you? All right. So that way you don't get confused. That's one reason, again, when it comes to context, you read the whole thing, right? That's why we went through verse 1 to verse number 8, because verse number 9 starts a different parable. Okay? So you want to look at it as a chunk first, a group, and then we break it down little by little. And then, of course, we also apply other scriptures to that verse, right? That, again, like we studied with the second coming of Jesus, it establishes what? Bible harmony. right? Bible unity. That way you know you're interpreting correctly, right? Because the best interpreter of the Bible is what? The Bible itself, right?
Yeah.
So the Bible decodes itself, okay? All right, so any questions or comments first before we get into the lesson deeper? That's just kind of introduction and getting warmed up. All right, let's go into it then. All right, so go back to that Luke 18, verse number 1. And he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to what? Pray and not faint, right? So faint can be translated many different ways depending on the context of what you're talking about, right? Because when you first think about faint, what do you think? Passing out. And so obviously then, it can't literally mean pass out. Pass out means what? Symbolism. Symbolism, right? And so sometimes passing out or faint in the King James Version means what? Quit. Right? Or it can mean something else, right? And when you look at it in the original Greek language, which I did when I looked up the word faint, I found that the New King James Version was extremely helpful and extremely accurate. So let's read it out of the New King James Version. What does it say? Now you probably can't see it from here, but I'll just read it to you. Then he spoke a parable to them that men always ought to pray and what? Not lose heart. Because again, in modern English, we don't use that word faint too often anymore, right? That's King James Version. So obviously the language has changed over time. Okay? That's just the way English works. We're always evolving, always changing. If you ever look at any word studies in the current dictionary, notice every year there's a different version of the dictionary, right? That's because what? Words change. Some are added, some are changed, some go obsolete, not used anymore. And so that's just the way our language works. And so that's why you always get contemporary versions of the Bible for that reason. Even this one, Luke 18, verse 1, King James Version, that's not the original King James Version. You realize that, right? King James has been revised several times. And so when you look at the original King James Version, about the year correctly, it's from 1611. You can't even read it from the 1611 version, okay? Even the letters in English are not the same, okay, when you look at it that way. So I'm not knocking the King James Version, don't get me wrong. I'm just showing you another way that you learn how to interpret the Bible. This is how we stick to hermeneutics, right? Meaning, but the way to rightly interpret the Bible, sometimes you have to use a contemporary version in order to understand it, okay? First, like again, my method is what I've been taught in school. First study the Greek words, and then go back. If another version actually is close to that Greek, use it. And so that's why I always use my second Bible is the New King James Version. Because for my study so far, over 20 years of doing this thing, is that it's probably the most accurate contemporary version that you have. NIV is going to have some issues, for some reasons. Which I know why. It's because they wrote some biases into it. A lot of times with NIV, the guys that interpret it, they didn't really believe in miraculous things. And so they took a lot of miraculous out of it. So you have to be very, very careful with the versions that you use. I always tell you, get a good parallel Bible. That means a Bible that has two versions in at the same time. And that'll help you from going off track. Okay? All right. So if you do have a contradiction, though, even with the parallel Bible, let me do this so I get back to the lesson. That's when you learn how to use the Greek words. Then you know exactly what's going on. Okay? All right, any questions or comments on there? I went off the beaten path, but I think it was of value to you. All right. So now, getting back to Luke 18, that first verse, all right? And so obviously then, a parable is what? A fictional story to teach you what? Spiritual point. Okay? And the spiritual point is this is what? Pray and don't stop praying. Okay? That's what Jesus is trying to teach us now. He's going to use a story to teach us the value of prayer. Okay? All right? So the purpose then, if an unrighteous judge, which we're going to get into in a minute, this is one of the central characters, if an unrighteous judge will grant the request of somebody seeking justice, God will certainly grant our request because why? He's different. He's what? He's righteous and he's loving. If you notice, I'm going to probably repeat myself as we go along, the unrighteous judge in the parable, he granted the wish not because he was righteous, because why? Yeah, he was tired of the woman. You know, if it was today, he was like, just get out my courtroom. I don't want to hear this anymore. Have what you want. You're getting on my nerves. And so his character wasn't very good, was it? And I hope no judge is like that, right? I mean, because you can get away with a whole lot. Just going there getting on their nerves. Hey, I get off on everything. You know, that would be silly if that was the mentality of everybody. But he's just using that as a point to show the contrast between an unrighteous judge and the righteous judge, being God. Okay? All right, we'll get into that a little bit. All right, so any questions or comments on that? All right, so here's what you're going to find. Here's the two things, because remember this. Jesus gave us the subject in the beginning of the parable, but he also gave us the subject that he was trying to accomplish at the end of the parable. Look at chapter 8, verse 8. All right, so he had two things he was accomplishing in this, right? So go to that really quick. Let's look at it real quick. We'll come right back around. Look at Luke chapter 18, verse number 8. Where was that now? Let me get to this Bible. And I tell you that he will what? Avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he what? Find faith on the earth. So you see two things he taught through that parable, right? The first one was what? That God will what? Respond to our prayer requests. And also, when it's that time, he's going to what? Avenge the Christian community of their enemies. That's something we don't really talk about too much, right? But God is what? We're talking about a judge, right? So as we talk about the second coming that we went over for 9 months or so, he's going to come back and judge, right? Yeah. And so that's something, that's a repeated theme that's throughout the New Testament of the Bible. You're not getting around that, okay? That's why you need Jesus, so you can be saved from that, right? That's the whole purpose of Jesus coming here. What did he say? I came to seek and to save that which was lost, okay? Whole reason for him to come to earth in the first place. All right, so again, remember these two things as we go through the parable to make it easy for you. He's teaching about God responding to our prayer requests. He's talking about avenging us of enemies on that great judgment day to come. Okay? All right, still getting warmed up on it, so we stay on the right track as we go through the parable. Any questions or comments on that before we move forward?
You know, you mentioned he will avenge us of our enemies at the last day. Now, you know, people will say, well, what about right now? You know, they're concerned about God answering a prayer right now. But he will also do things for us in the meantime. Right now, you know, I was talking in the morning class, you know, how oftentimes people want to put God on a, you know, time God.
Right.
Say, well, you know, if you don't answer by in the morning, I know you ain't going to answer. You know? But, you know, it may not necessarily work like that because you know what happened with, I mentioned, you know, what happened with Lazarus. When Lazarus passed, well, when he died, his sisters had requested that he come to see Lazarus.
Yeah.
And, you know, but 4 days later, you know, when he got there, he was already dead and buried. So, so though we may think it's too late, or we're out of time, but you know, the Lord he doesn't run out of time. So he understood the situation far better than anyone else did.
And even in that story, he had a purpose for that. That 4-day delay was what? So they could see the glory of God and really witness his power, his exalted state. See, he could have healed the person. That would have exalted God. But not to the point of what? Rising a man from the dead. That was God's purpose. Go ahead, brother.
No, that's the point I want to make.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate that. All right. We're going to get into things like that as we go along. Absolutely. Anybody else? Anybody else? All right. Let's move on then. All right. So here's our responsibilities now. And we're learning this throughout the parable. So again, you have to take scripture upon scripture to make sure we don't go off base. All right. Our responsibility then is to allow God to take vengeance, not us. You get that? The power of revenge is not granted unto us. Okay? That is God's responsibility, God's prerogative, and his only. And as our brother has said, even though we may be talking about the judgment day, he can do that now. He can do that on this time side of life. Are we praying for that? No. On anybody, right? Because we'll see why we're not praying for that. Now, in the Old Testament, you may see that. You know, David was good for, if somebody messed him over, kill him, Lord, take him out of here. But that's one reason why David ain't our Messiah. That's one reason David is not our king nor our savior, right? Remember, David was in a different era. David was never a Christian. We can learn some things about faith from David. We can learn some things about repentance from David. We can learn some things about praise from David. But we cannot learn perfection from David. We cannot learn perfection from anybody in the Bible but Jesus. Remember, Hebrews 4:14 and 16 testifies about Jesus and Jesus only. He was tempted in all points like us, yet without sin. Moses sinned. David sinned. Joseph sinned. I'm talking about all the patriarchs, right? Jacob. All of them sinned. Even though God held them in high esteem in Hebrews chapter number 11, still at the end of the day, the only one he testified about being perfect was what? Jesus himself. So we pattern ourselves after him and nobody else. We can take some highlights from them that are Christ-like, but there's a whole lot from every character in the Bible you have to discard, right? That is not Christ-like. So our ultimate standard is what? Jesus and Jesus alone. So again, here's our responsibilities. Treat our enemies with love. And try to be a peacemaker, right? At all times. Let's get that scripture for us real quick. Somebody get Romans 12. Then somebody else be ready with Proverbs 15, verse 1. Please. To expedite the class a little bit. All right, Romans 12, verse 18 to 20. Here's our responsibility. I don't know about you, but I had to use this today. In fact, I had to use it every day. All of these principles are stuff that's not supposed to go in one ear and out the other. In other words, we got to use it every day. As long as, if you want to be honest about this, as long as you live, you'll have an enemy somewhere. Whether you're perfect or not, which we know we aren't. But even if you were perfect, you have enemies, right? What about the perfection of Christ? Christ never did anything to anybody. They still crucified him. Okay, think about it that way. And so have realistic expectations about people. You're going to have that. And so God is basically saying, be ready for them. Here, prepare your heart for the daily battle you're going to have with your enemies every day. See, sometimes somebody might be saying, well, I don't know anybody that has a problem with me. You don't know everybody's heart either. I mean, I hate to say, use the example, but what did OJ say? Y'all lived in that era. They smile on your face for what? Stab you in the back. There are some people that's going to smile on your face, act like they love you, all that, but when the rubber meets the road, as we like to say, when something crucial goes down, they're going to turn on you in a heartbeat. Okay? So don't be surprised with that. Okay? So be ready for those moments now so they don't shock you. They don't throw you in a tailspin. They don't depress you. They don't anger you to the point that you sin. Because why? You are ready for it. It's so funny that, yesterday that I wrote this lesson yesterday and had to live it today. It's like God was preparing me for today with some of the things I had to go through at work. But that is just it, right? You work in the world. So what is the world going to act like? The world. They're going to act ungodly. So you have to be ready for that. Okay? All right, let's get that really quickly here. Let me not over talk it here. Romans 12, verse 18 to 20. Somebody, go ahead and read that for me, please. And we're going to take our time. We might go over this a few times. I'm talking about the whole lesson. We might not get through the whole thing, but that's okay. Somebody go ahead and read that.
If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. But it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord.
All right, so let's go back to that first verse. What's the first word you see? I'm talking about Romans 12, verse 18. What's the first word God put there?
If.
If. So what does if mean?
That's not always all the time. It's not always possible.
Yeah.
It's conditional. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. God is realistic. Okay? He knows the heart of man. He knows there are some people you can treat like gold, but they're going to treat you like garbage in return. He knows that. Why do you think he knows that? That's what they do to him. Exactly. So if people mistreat the God of heaven, the God that gives them everything, the God that sustains them, what do you think they're going to do to you? Be honest. Be honest, right? Because there's no way I could be like God to everybody in that absolute perfection, that absolute love that he has. And so obviously then, I'm going to rub somebody the wrong way, whether I'm right or wrong. Okay? It happens. So, I hate to say it this way, get over it. Get over it. And move on. Because once you get past one enemy, another one's going to pop up. Think that way. Okay? Think that way. It prepares you from falling into disasters. You don't have to. Okay? All right. So obviously then, that first word sets the tone, doesn't it? It said what? If it be possible. There's literally people you cannot be at peace with no matter what you do. But basically what God is teaching you, don't let it be your fault. What's the next word say? Look at the next clause I'm trying to say. If it be possible as what? As much as lieth in you. That's old King James talking, meaning what? As much as depends on you. Okay? Notice something. He said, if it be possible as much as depends on you. He didn't say as much as depends on the other person. Who do you put first in this conversation? You. Us. Right? Peace begins with us. Right? So that means that what? Go back to Matthew 5, the Sermon on the Mount. What did Jesus say? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the what? Children of God. Do all that you can to be at peace with people, right? It may be possible, right? Because what did he start with? If it be possible. But if it does not, that's still not your fault, right? And God does not hold that against you because he already knows it might happen and it might not. That's what he's preparing your heart for right now, okay? All right, let's keep going real quick, and I want to open up to you. Just want to make sure we complete the thought. Okay, verse 18. If it be possible, as much as what? Lieth in you, which means what? Depends on you, your side of the story, right? Do what? Live peaceably with what? All men. Okay, what if they're criminals? God is saying what? Try to be at peace with them, right? I'm not talking about compromise and righteousness or anything like that, right? What if they call you out your name? God is saying what? Try to be at peace with them. You see the challenge there? What if they treat you good? Try to be at peace with them, because God said what? With all men. Okay? To the best of your human ability, try to be a peacemaker, not a peace breaker. Okay? That's what the Bible is actually teaching us, right? Then what does he say? And really these thoughts go together, right? If you're a peacemaker, you're not going to try to take revenge no way. And that's what the next verse is talking about, right? If you have that mindset, then you don't have to worry about verse 19, right? Look what he says. Dearly what? Beloved, do not what? Don't avenge yourself. In other words, the proper word in King James Version says what? Avenge not yourself, right? In other words, God says what? But rather what? Give place unto wrath. What does it mean to give place unto wrath if you were to say that in your own way? Well, first establish whose wrath? No, because if you think about what was just said. I'm not down. Think about what was just said. Because it won't make sense when you think about it this way. Don't give place to what he said. Let me go back to it and say it the way it is. Okay. If it be possible, as much as life in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourself, but rather give place unto wrath. God can't be talking to you, your wrath, because you're not supposed to what? Have wrath. So whose wrath is he talking about? His own. Correct. He's saying, let me the one be angry. Huh? You get it? Don't keep sitting sitting there fuming over something. If somebody hurt you, God is already angry. He's saying, let me be that person, not you. You know why he said don't let you be that person? Think about it. Why he don't want us to be that angry person? Truth be told, think about humanity. We can't handle it. We can't handle it. Why? The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Eventually, if you hold on to anger, you're going to succumb to it. It's going to take over, right? You might be saying to yourself, I ain't going to do this. I'm not going to do that. All of a sudden, the rolling pin is in your hands, wives. You told yourself you want to go hit him, right? But he walked close to you he walked too close to you, right? And all of a sudden, accidentally, you put a knot on his head, right? And I'm being sarcastic, right? See, that's why you can't eternalize this. That's why you have to let it go and give it to God, because he's already angry when somebody does something to you. Go ahead.
And I've heard people say, I've looked around a lot of people over the years, I've heard people say, well, I'm going to lay my religion down and take care of this myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry God with this anymore. Going to go on and take care, but still, you may change the situation where you have to come against God when we do that, because it's done what he told us not to do. And then again, you don't ever know what the outcome is going to be when you're tempted to do that. Things may not wind up the way you think, and there's a hope that they will.
Well, I was thinking this way. You think you might be going down there to whoop somebody and get whooped.
Yeah.
If you step away from God, what power you got? That's like cutting off Samson's locks, right?
Yeah.
God ain't with you when you're trying to avenge. So there's no guarantee you're going to win out.
Right.
In the first place. So then you double messed up, right? You done sinned and you don't got to work. Think about it. Think about it. It don't work. It don't work all the time, right? Go ahead, sister.
Two things. One, I never really thought about it in that perspective. As far as how you just really laid it out in more details. And because of that, it makes me want to repent, because I've had a really rough week with a lot of stuff out of just straight up details. And it makes me want to repent, because now I feel like I've been alone with how I handle things pertaining to this week. So I would like to repent.
We received that. We're going to pray for you. For sure. I told you. I had to write this yesterday. And got tested. I'm talking like 3-4 hours of testing. Like, y'all are getting on my last nerve. But I'm saying to myself, I'm not going to sin. I'm not going to lose it. Because you have to understand how Satan does. Remember, when you look at Matthew 4, when Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, what happened? Satan came at him 3 times. In other words, just because you win one victory does not mean he's not coming back in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's just the point is you have to resist him long enough for him to do what? Flee. Remember what the scriptures say? Submit thyself unto God. Resist the devil, and what will he do? He will flee from you. Okay? All right. Let me keep going, guys. Let me keep going. I know this is rich. This is rich, so we might not get that far, but that's okay, because I think this is ministered to our spirit. I'm telling you, this literally helped me today. Literally. All right, let's go back to it now. Verse 18. I know I'm repeating myself. That's because I lose my spot sometimes. I'll admit to you. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourself, but what? Rather give place unto wrath. And you see, I didn't even explain it this way, but the rest of the verse tells you what wrath applies to, right? He said, why? Whose wrath is he talking about? He says what? For it is written, vengeance is what? Mine, I will repay, saith the Lord's. Right? The Lord. So again, what are we talking about? God saying what? Don't you be that angry one, let him do that. He's the only one that can deal literally and perfectly in righteous anger. Okay? All right, let's move on for a minute here. But God says, take the other route, right? We like to have the saying here, right? You got to take the high road, right? All right. It may not be fair. It may not be the outcome you want. At the end of the day, the greatest outcome you want is God to be happy with you no matter what happens. Okay? Negative or positive. To you, no matter what the loss we incur, God is saying do what? Do this instead, the high road. He says what? Verse 20. Therefore, if what? Thy enemy what? Hunger. Just called me out my name. I gotta feed him. Yeah. Yeah. You see how this is not worldly at all? You see how this is spiritual minded and not my minded? Your minded? Natural minded? Because why? It goes against the grain of nature. Right? Right? You know, I know my wife has given you that story before, right? But I'm so glad for her grandmother, how she raised her, right? Her grandmother told her, even if you get mad at your husband, still feed him. There's been many days I couldn't starve. Amen, I'll tell you. But she fed me anyway, didn't put nothing in it either. There wasn't no poison, nothing like that, right? I mean, you think about it as a husband, should I eat it? Should I? But she ain't killed me yet after 18 years of marriage. Okay? Therefore, if thine enemy what? Hunger, do what? Feed him. If he thirst, what? Now, I like the color purple. Y'all remember that scene, right?
Yeah.
Not people that American that's watching this right now don't know what I'm talking about. So I have to explain that, right? Was it Celie was her name, right?
Yeah.
And what she did with Mr.'s drink?
Yes,
Okay, don't spit in it.
Yeah.
Just what? Give him drink. Go to the tap and do nothing else. Right? Okay? Because if you do, that's what? Vengeance. If God don't want vengeance, right? Okay, therefore if thine enemy hunger, do what? Feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. So what is God saying? The result of this. All right? He tells us for means what? Because, or the result of, right? For what? So doing, thou shalt what? Heap coals of fire on his head. What does your head entail, guys? It's symbolism. Your emotions, right? Really what I'm looking for is your conscience. Not yours, but the person that you're dealing with. So if that person actually has any degree of heart, now remember, God is saying if it be possible. Okay, we're on the positive side of the if. We're on the side that if that enemy has a decent heart, he will be or she will be convicted of the evil behavior they've done to you. Okay? That's what this is talking about. Coals of fire means you're burning their conscience up. You're causing guilt upon them. Because why? You will not stoop to their level. You are still keeping your Christian integrity. You're still keeping your honesty. You're not fighting fire with fire, as you like to say, right? And when that person, if that person is a good person, if he's on the positive side of the if, then what? You're making him or her eat their own words, right? You're making him or her feel bad for the way that they've treated you. Okay? That's the way God says deal with an enemy. Okay? Does that make sense to you? Okay? All right, because I've seen that happen, you know, especially when I look at the workforce that I've been in. I've literally had the Joseph situations, you know. You remember how the brother sold him into slavery? And back in Genesis, and then they had to come back to him for food? I've had that happen. I've had God turn the tables on folk. Like, you have been a thorn in my side for years. I got the power right now to kick you out of my office. I got the power right now to put a bad report on you. I've been in those situations where God has reversed the tables. Then I had to do what Joseph did, right? Feed him. Do right by him. That sometimes God will reverse that situation for you. And that will be where you respond like just like this, right? They're hungry, what? Feed them. Thirsty, what? Give them drink. Okay? Then many times, what? If they're honest, they'll feel bad for all the stuff they didn't put you through. Okay? This is the way God is saying, deal with an enemy. Okay? All right, any questions or comments on that so far?
When you come up with that, when people come back to you, sometimes you just want to say, sometimes people don't acknowledge it, because sometimes they don't feel like what they're doing is literally wrong.
Now, in my example, when I was saying verbally, I was thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say those things. But you got to understand something, too. With every commandment God gives you, Satan's going to try to undo it some kind of way. I mean, the first thing Satan's going to do is say, don't you remember? They don't deserve this. They don't deserve that, right? Give them a taste of their own medicine. You know, anytime God is present, Satan is also there. And that's when we have to decipher. We have to decide between which path to take. And remember, we serve a whosoever will God. God ain't going to make you do the right thing. That's a choice we have to make at the end of the day. But you know, it's good to be able to make that decision. I'm talking about on the righteous side, because then you sleep like a baby at night. You don't carry around guilt from, with you, right? No, I've used the example before. You never want to give Satan a 2-for-1 sale. You don't want to make 2 sinners out of 1. I'm talking about by you overreacting or me overreacting on something, right? Because then Satan's got the offender and he's got the offended at the same time. He knows how to play you against each other. Okay? That makes sense to you? All right. Keep thinking these ways, even when your temperature is 150 degrees Fahrenheit, as far as your temper. Keep thinking like that. It'll deliver. You did it to me. You did it for me today. Yes.
You never know why people do what they do, because you don't have to always do anything to people for them to be,
right.
To be evil towards you.
Right.
And of course I've experienced that. When I came here straight on the heels of the civil rights movement, you had people who just didn't like it because of your race. But I know a couple in particular who was, one wouldn't even speak, but you turn out to be one of the best employees ahead, and things change. It wasn't so much what I did, but because the man who worked with him, because what he did, he wasn't like him. And then another one wound up being one of my best allies. Now, even to this day, when I see him, we still talk, but he changed a whole lot over the years. But you just have to, you don't let yourself become what people think you are.
You don't want to be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
After all, we servants of the Most High God, so we shouldn't just do anything. We shouldn't develop a bad reputation because what somebody else did.
It is interesting that you say that, because don't forget, every day of our lives, especially when people know that you're Christian, we're battling the stereotype that you are a hypocrite like the rest of them. That's not a fair assumption at all. But people are looking for you to make that mistake so they can say, see, I told you. And I would not give them that satisfaction for nobody or whatever they do. Think that way. Think that way. Those type of things will deliver you. Of course, it'll make Christ proud about you. Okay? All right, very good. I cut you off. You good? All right, any other questions or comments? Well, we didn't get nowhere as far as where I want to get tonight, but that's okay. All right. We might be able to finish this slide real quickly, and then we'll go on. It's about 14 slides. We're on slide 5. That's all right. We'll divide it up. I think it's more value taking our time. Is that all right now? Because we're applying this to real life stuff. All right, so Proverbs 15, verse 1. Somebody else get Proverbs 16, verse 7. And somebody else get Matthew 5, 44 to 45. Just because we're running out of time, I just want to finish these thoughts real quickly to keep them in a unit. Okay. Now, remember the book of Proverbs, Psalms. If you want your instruction or wisdom from everyday living, that's where you go. Okay. Obviously, we know we can't be saved in the Old Testament, but the Old Testament is there for our learning. And so God has preserved a lot of our everyday, how you deal with other people's stuff in Proverbs and Psalms for everyday situations. Okay, so those that if you want to be wiser, really dive into those. That'll really help you in everyday situations. Okay? All right, so Proverbs 15, verse number 1. Somebody get that for me, please.
A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger.
Okay, a soft answer turns away wrath. Do you see how God is saying control the tone of your voice? Especially in a heated situation, right? Because that'll calm folk down. Some of you are mothers. You know how to calm down a baby, don't you? Sometimes we gotta drop that voice a little bit, don't we? When we're talking to other people. See, with the world is gonna say you are weak for doing that. How can you not yell back at somebody? You know, how can you not say 4-letter words at them? Can I say that? In response to what they're saying. How can you not belittle them? Let me tell you something. Be able to have restraint is true strength. Because doing what is natural is easy. It's easy to hit somebody back, right? It's easy to belittle somebody that has belittled you. But don't you get more satisfaction out of things that are harder to do than just taking the easy road, right? And so God, this is what God is saying. If you want to kind of like calm a situation down, you can't escalate it by your voice keep going up. That's only going to be what? Being worse. That's going to make what? Fire with fire. You can't do it that way. You have to what? Extinguish fire with water. So you have to take a different tone in the way that you deal with people. Because God is saying what? Grievous words, that means harsh words. Do what? They stir it up. Right? And so this is nothing but common sense. Even though it's from a spiritual standpoint, I call it spiritual common sense. Okay? All right, let's look at this real quick. Go back to Proverbs 16 now, verse 7. And this is actually illustrating what our elder has just said. Look at Proverbs 16, verse 7. Somebody get that for me, please.
When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to do their peace with him.
When people really see God in you, and again, this goes back to that if it be possible situation, if that person has a decent heart, that actually person becomes one of your best allies, right? Can actually become one of your best friends when you handle them correctly, right? Even when they're not doing the right things. Okay, so that's one way that you can actually bring people back to your side that may not be on your side initially. Okay? All right, last one, Matthew 5:44 and 45. Somebody read that for me, please.
But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you.
All right, so I'm gonna come back to it. All right, so first it says what? Love your enemies, right? Because loving your enemies is what? That's the agape form of the Greek, right? It's agape form of love. And so that's one reason why you cannot buy into what Satan says when somebody is doing something wrong to you, still supposed to do right by them. You can't listen to him saying they don't deserve it. Because why? Agape love means what? It's love that's unconditional and what? Self-sacrificial. Okay? So it's not for us to judge who deserves anything. Because God is saying what? Just love them anyway. Love them through it. Love them through the evils that they're taking you through. Love them through the abuse that they're taking you through. What do you say? Love your enemies, what? Bless them that what? Curse you. Curse you means what? Talk evil. Wish bad upon you. God says do what instead? Bless them, not bless them out. In our slang, don't add out to it. Curse them. It means to what? Bless them means what? Say something good about them. Anyway, despite them saying evil things about you. Bless them that curse you, do what? Do good to them that what? That hate you, right? And do what else? Pray for them that what? Despitefully use you and what? And persecute you. Abuse and mistreat you is a rough way of translating those last two words, right? God say pray for them, right? Love them and pray for them instead of acting in revenge. Okay? These are the things that God says, right? And what's that verse 45 say?
That ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust.
All right, so we're called to be imitators of God himself, right? Because God can get angry with us and destroy us anytime he wants to, right? But he still does what? Puts up with us. Loves us through it, right? And so this is the things he's saying. He's saying, be like me. Talking about be like God, right? Because what does he do for his enemies? rains on them, right? They don't deserve it. Is that right? I'm talking about that means that's a symbolism for what? A blessing. He blesses even his enemies. And God says, be the same way. Okay? All right, any last question or comment, just because we're out of time here. Go ahead.
You have to, I just speak for me. You have to grow into that type of forgiveness or whatever. Because I was just thinking, like with the Blanchard girl,
Yeah.
that, you know, those evil men, killed. I would probably just have to be in solitude because my mind would want to do that evil that you're saying that we shouldn't do. So it's a growing process for us to love beyond cruelty that is done. I put it that way.
I agree 100%. The only thing that I've learned as I mature on this same topic, that I challenge myself and I challenge anybody, maybe a year ago I couldn't even say this to you. But when you say I'm going to grow on something, add something to that statement. What is going to be my growth plan? Because some people say I'm working on something, they're not working on a thing. Seriously. Some people will stand behind that statement, hide behind it, in order to just be who they want to be. Not accusing you of that by any form or fashion, but that's how you overcome. That's what I had to do today. Remember what I told you? With all the mess, 3-4 hours of mess I went through today. What did I keep telling myself? I said, look, I'm not going to lose it. That was my plan. And I kept that right in front of my face. Because I kept looking at them being something else, right? You get where I'm coming from, right? So challenge yourself with what your growth plan is going to be. I'll put it this way. This is your challenge for right now. There's something in your life right now that gets on your last nerve. Or somebody. Or something somebody does that gets on your nerves right now. What is your plan for dealing with it? Y'all start smiling when I said that. It was funny for a minute. Okay, that'll work. But pray before you see the person. You know where I'm coming from? It might be that coworker that y'all had the same break. Go to the same room. You might be walking down the hall and say, okay, I already know that when I walk in there, that person get on my nerves. They see me at the coffee machine and step in front of me anyway. If they do that to me, I'm not going to lose it. That's my plan. Lord, help me not lose it. If that happens. You know my mind is willing, but my flesh is weak. You told me to pray. Right? I told myself I'm not going to go off if that happened. Now, Lord, if it do, help me. That's your plan. That's your plan. Or you just going there, la, 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 it happened, and, oh, you ain't ready for it. And what you going to do? Overreact. Okay, let me get it real quick. I saw one more here.
I was just thinking about the same lines that you was talking about. You know, I had to kind of put all these scriptures together because, you know, they're person I've been dealing with for several years. It took me a long time to understand that everybody's not going to like you, and you know that you can't be at peace with everybody, even though you try for maybe even years. And so I just came to a point. I was like, well, I'm just gonna pray for the person. There's nothing else I can really do. I tried to talk to him several times and make peace, but it doesn't work. Most of the time it gets worse. So there's nothing else I can really do with the situation. So I said, like you said, now I just pray about it, and then things that I can still do to try to help the situation, I still do. You know, I saw that she didn't have lunch one day, so I asked her if she wanted lunch, and I went and got lunch for her. But I mean, there's, I just can't expect that the situation is gonna get any better because I don't know. I just keep praying, and maybe it'll work out one day. But
outsmart the devil, folks. Outsmart you. He's trying to outsmart you all the time. We got to shut it down, guys. Somebody give us a song real quick, one of the brothers, and we'll get everybody out here, and then we'll continue this on another occasion. I'm over time. God bless you. Good class.